Welcome to Sleepy Stories. In this episode, we will take a clear and steady look at the human body, how it works, how it maintains itself, and how every part connects to the next. The goal is to help you learn while you rest. If you do not fall asleep right away, that is completely fine. In the time you are awake, you will learn interesting scientific facts before you fall asleep. Simply listen, let your breathing slow, and allow the information to settle at its own pace. If you enjoy these calm journeys through science, consider liking and subscribing. It helps us continue creating more sleepy stories that bring knowledge and serenity together. Now, let us begin with the most familiar subject of all, ourselves. The human body is often described as a machine, yet that comparison barely approaches its complexity. Machines are assembled from parts that can be taken apart and repaired. The body, however, builds itself from within, cell by cell, following patterns encoded in microscopic strands of DNA. It is self-organizing, self-correcting, and continuously changing. Each heartbeat, each breath, each tiny electric impulse represents thousands of chemical reactions occurring in perfect coordination. Inside you, trillions of individual cells are working right now. Some convert food into energy, others carry oxygen, others transmit information as faint electrical pulses. Every few days, millions die and are replaced without your awareness. The skin renews itself roughly once a month. The lining of your stomach regenerates every few days. Even bone, which seems inert, is in a constant process of removal and rebuilding. You are not the same physical structure you were a year ago. The body's atoms have been exchanged for new ones. To keep this living architecture functioning, organization is everything. Cells do not act alone. They form tissues, organs, and systems, a hierarchy of cooperation that sustains stability. Blood vessels deliver oxygen from lungs to muscle. Hormones travel like quiet messengers, coordinating growth and metabolism. The nervous system monitors and adjusts, ensuring that temperature, pressure, and chemistry remain within narrow limits. This state of internal balance is called homeostasis, and it is one of biology's most elegant achievements. Energy is the key to it all. The body converts chemical energy from food into motion, thought, and heat. Within each cell, mitochondria act as power plants, producing ATP, the molecule that fuels nearly every biological process. The precision of these conversions rivals any engineered system, yet they occur silently, endlessly, without command. The body is also an archive of time. Bones record years of stress and adaptation. Skin bears traces of sunlight and repair. The heart thickens slightly with each decade of effort. DNA preserves both the code and the marks left by life, subtle chemical tags that reflect what we have eaten, breathed, and felt. In every molecule, history and function coexist. When you move, your muscles pull against levers of bone. When you speak, air vibrates through folds of tissue shaped by evolution to form sound. When you see, your eyes turn light into electrical patterns interpreted by the brain. Each action seems effortless, yet behind it lies the labor of countless systems operating in unity. The essential truth is that you do not have to tell the body what to do. It already knows. From birth until your final breath, it measures, adjusts, and repairs itself. You can rest because it does not stop. If at this moment you are lying still, you might sense the pulse in your wrist or the rhythm of your chest rising and falling. These are not random movements. They are the visible signatures of equilibrium, the body's quiet conversation with the world around it. The study of anatomy and physiology reveals not chaos, but profound order. Every molecule has a place. Proteins fold into shapes that fit other proteins. Cells cluster to create tissues. Organs align to form systems that sustain the whole. The closer we look, the more structure we find. The body is a pattern made visible, a design without designer, sculpted by billions of years of natural selection. Even sleep itself is part of that design. During rest, hormones shift, cells repair, and the brain sorts and consolidates memory. The state you drift toward now is one of restoration, not idleness. The same intelligence that guides your heartbeat will, in time, lower it. So as this story begins, you are not simply hearing about the body, you are experiencing it in motion, breathing, pulsing, maintaining. Beneath the surface, order continues unbroken. Tonight we will explore that order, layer by layer, from cell to self. You may close your eyes whenever you wish. The body already knows what to do next. Every living thing begins with a single cell. In humans, that one cell divides again and again, following genetic instructions to create tissues, organs, and eventually, thought itself. The average adult contains around 30 trillion cells, each a small compartment of organized chemistry. Inside every cell lies the same DNA, yet different genes are active depending on the cell's role. This process, called differentiation, gives rise to the diversity that forms a complete human body. Cells communicate through an intricate system of signals, electrical impulses, hormones, and molecular messengers that coordinate everything from heartbeat to digestion. A neuron in the brain may send an electrical charge across a synapse, while a liver cell responds to a hormonal pulse from the pancreas. No single cell controls the others, yet the system as a whole operates with remarkable precision. The nucleus of each cell serves as its command center, housing DNA wrapped around proteins called histones. Outside the nucleus, the cytoplasm holds ribosomes that read genetic code and build proteins, mitochondria that generate energy, and membranes that regulate exchange with the environment. Every component has a defined purpose, shaped by evolution to keep the cell stable and responsive. Homeostasis begins at this microscopic level. If temperature, pH, or chemical balance shifts, the cell reacts instantly, activating enzymes, moving ions, or adjusting its metabolism. Millions of such corrections occur every second, forming the quiet foundation for the body's overall stability. The meditative truth of biology is that cooperation, not command, defines life. Each cell acts according to its local needs, but those individual actions support a shared purpose. The skin protects, the muscles move, the brain coordinates, and the heart delivers fuel. Every function depends on others, and no single cell could survive alone for long. When we think of identity, we often imagine it residing in the mind. Yet, in a biological sense, the self is the sum of cellular communication, a vast network of chemical dialogue translating environment into action. You are both one and many, a single being made of countless microscopic lives working together. Inside bones, stem cells continuously divide to replace blood. In the lining of the gut, cells regenerate daily to handle digestion. The brain, while mostly stable, adapts through new connections rather than new cells. Every organ maintains itself through the balance between cell birth and cell death, a process called apoptosis. The dying cell signals its end so that others may take its place. This constant renewal gives the body a quiet resilience. You are not fixed in form, you are in motion, rebuilt moment by moment. Even while you lie still, millions of cellular processes keep you alive, energy flowing, waste removed, systems balanced. Thinking about this cooperation brings a kind of peace. You do not have to manage it, nor can you. The body knows how to remain itself. Trillions of silent decisions are made every second without your attention. They continue in darkness, in sleep, in silence. The story of the body begins here, at the smallest scale, a living community without walls or borders, united by purpose. From these cells, everything else emerges. The organs that sustain you, the senses that connect you to the world, and the mind that wonders how it all began. At the heart of every living cell lies a molecule that stores life's complete design, deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. Its structure is simple yet powerful, two long strands coiled into a double helix, connected by four chemical bases known as adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. The order of these bases forms a code, a sequence that determines how the body is built and how it functions. Each human cell contains roughly 3 billion of these base pairs, folded neatly into 23 pairs of chromosomes. If all the DNA in your body were stretched out, it would reach the sun and back hundreds of times, yet it fits within the microscopic space of a cell nucleus. This compactness is achieved through proteins called histones, which coil the strands into a dense, organized structure. DNA holds the instructions for making proteins, the molecules that build, repair, and regulate the body. Segments of DNA called genes act as templates, each corresponding to a particular protein. When a gene is activated, its code is copied into a similar molecule called RNA, which then carries the instructions to ribosomes in the cytoplasm. There, amino acids are assembled one by one into precise sequences that fold into functional shapes. The process is exact, yet adaptable. Environmental factors, diet, and stress can influence which genes are turned on or off through mechanisms known as epigenetics. These chemical modifications do not change the code itself, but affect how often it is read. In this way, life remains flexible. The same genetic script can produce slightly different performances depending on circumstance. The stability of DNA is matched by its ability to copy itself. Before a cell divides, enzymes unzip the helix and duplicate each strand, creating identical copies for the new cells. Mistakes sometimes occur, introducing mutations, but most are corrected immediately by repair enzymes. Those few that persist can drive evolution, creating variation across generations. There is something quietly remarkable about this microscopic architecture. Within every one of your cells lies a record of ancestry stretching back to the first forms of life on Earth. The molecules that replicate inside you now follow the same chemical logic that guided bacteria billions of years ago. You carry within you a history that predates your species, your planet's continents, even the air you breathe. The body's visible form, bones, muscles, skin, and mind, is an ongoing interpretation of that molecular text. Each heartbeat and gesture is a translation of a silent chemical sentence written long before you were born. And as cells die and divide, they continue to copy those same words, ensuring that the story of life remains unbroken. When you think of DNA, imagine not a code hidden away, but a process in motion, a script continuously read, edited, and performed. It is the foundation upon which every thought and breath depends, a structure so small yet so complete that from it arises everything that makes us human. From the microscopic world of DNA, we move to the visible architecture it creates, the tissues and organs that give the body shape, strength, and function. Every structure you see, touch, or feel originates from the organization of specialized cells working together in precise patterns. Biology recognizes 4 main tissue types: epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous. Together they form every organ, every layer, every movement within the body. Epithelial tissue acts as a barrier and an interface. It lines the skin, covers internal surfaces, and forms the walls of organs and vessels. Its cells are tightly packed, designed to protect and control what enters or leaves. This is where absorption, secretion, and filtration occur, the body's first contact with its surroundings. Connective tissue provides support and connection. It includes bone, cartilage, tendons, ligaments, and even fat. Here, cells are surrounded by fibers and extracellular material that give flexibility and strength. Collagen, a major protein, acts like scaffolding, keeping organs and tissues aligned and stable. Within this matrix, blood vessels and immune cells travel, ensuring that even the deepest layers remain nourished and protected. Muscle tissue is the engine of movement. Its fibers contract when stimulated by electrical signals, converting chemical energy into mechanical force. Some muscle types, like skeletal muscle, move bones and joints under conscious control. Others, such as smooth muscle in the digestive tract and cardiac muscle in the heart, operate automatically, following rhythms that never stop. Nervous tissue completes the system by connecting everything through rapid electrical impulses. Neurons transmit information, while supporting glial cells maintain and protect them. This network forms the body's internal communication line, a biological data system far faster and more adaptable than any artificial machine. When tissues combine, they create organs, self-contained units designed for specific tasks. The stomach mixes and digests, the lungs exchange gases, and the liver filters and transforms chemicals. Each organ belongs to a larger system, such as the circulatory or respiratory system, that contributes to the body's overall balance. This layered structure, cells to tissues, tissues to organs, organs to systems, is what allows complexity to arise from simplicity. From a meditative view, this hierarchy is a reminder of cooperation. Nothing in the body functions alone. Every part depends on another, and even the smallest imbalance can ripple through the whole. The heart cannot beat without oxygen from the lungs, and the lungs cannot function without muscles to expand them. Every breath, every movement is an act of coordination, a silent conversation among tissues designed for unity. The durability of this design is extraordinary. Cut skin heals, broken bones knit together, and damaged muscle fibers repair themselves through countless microscopic efforts. Each tissue carries within it the capacity for renewal. What seems fragile at the surface is, in reality, a system of remarkable endurance. To see the body in this way is to understand it not as a collection of parts, but as a single, continuous structure, an organism built through layers of purpose. Beneath appearance lies a perfect order of form and function, each part built to support the next, each cell contributing to the quiet rhythm of life. Beneath the layers of muscle and skin lies a structure that defines the body's shape and gives it strength. The skeleton. It is more than a rigid frame. It is living tissue that grows, adapts, and repairs itself throughout life. The human skeleton contains 206 bones, each with a specific role. Some provide movement, others protection, and many act as reservoirs for minerals and blood cells. Bones are a form of connective tissue, composed primarily of a protein framework reinforced with minerals, mainly calcium and phosphorus. This combination gives bone its unique properties, strong enough to support the body, yet light enough for movement. Within the dense outer layer lies spongy bone, a porous structure that helps absorb impact and reduce weight. At the center of many bones is the marrow, a soft tissue responsible for producing blood cells. Red marrow generates red and white blood cells, while yellow marrow stores fat that can be converted to energy if needed. Every second, millions of new blood cells are created within this hidden factory, keeping the body supplied with oxygen and defense cells. Bones are not static. They constantly remodel through two types of cells: osteoblasts, which build bone, and osteoclasts, which break it down. This cycle maintains strength and allows adaptation. For example, the bones of an athlete thicken slightly under regular stress, while those unused for long periods lose density. The skeleton responds to experience, reshaping itself according to the demands of daily life. Joints connect bones at precise points of movement. Some, like the hinge of the elbow, allow motion in one direction, while others, like the shoulder, rotate freely. Cartilage cushions these contact surfaces, reducing friction and wear. Ligaments hold everything in alignment, giving stability without limiting flexibility. This cooperation between structure and motion allows the body to move smoothly and efficiently. The skull, ribs, and vertebrae form the body's protective core. The skull shields the brain, the ribs guard the heart and lungs, and the spinal column both supports posture and protects the spinal cord. These elements reveal the skeleton's dual purpose, motion and defense. It enables freedom while preserving the delicate systems within. From a reflective standpoint, the skeleton represents balance between strength and adaptability. It must be rigid enough to stand, yet dynamic enough to repair and evolve. Beneath the surface, it records your history, tiny stress lines from movement, healed fractures, subtle adjustments made in response to how you live. It is a memory of your physical life, written not in words, but in structure. The skeleton is a reminder that even stability is active. What appears solid is in fact a system of constant renewal, responding quietly to every step and every load. In stillness, it holds you upright. In motion, it bends and shifts with precision. Every breath, every movement rests on the strength of this living framework, a foundation that works tirelessly to support the rest of you. If the skeleton gives the body its form, the muscles give it life. They are the instruments of movement, generating force, shaping expression, and maintaining posture. Without muscle activity, the heart would not beat, the lungs would not expand, and even the eyes would remain still. Every motion, voluntary or automatic, begins with the contraction of muscle fibers working in perfect coordination. The human body contains more than 600 muscles, accounting for nearly half of its total weight. Despite their variety in size and shape, all muscles follow the same fundamental principle. They contract when stimulated by an electrical impulse. This contraction is driven by microscopic interactions between two protein filaments, actin and myosin, which slide past one another to shorten the cell. The process is fueled by adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, the molecule that carries chemical energy within every cell. Muscle fibers are organized into three main types: skeletal, smooth, and cardiac. Skeletal muscle attaches to bones via tendons and is under voluntary control. Every deliberate motion, lifting a cup, turning a page, or taking a step, involves signals from the brain that travel down the spinal cord to reach these fibers. Each muscle fiber receives input from a motor neuron, forming what is known as a motor unit. When you decide to move, thousands of motor units activate simultaneously, producing coordinated movement with astonishing precision. Smooth muscle operates automatically. It lines the digestive tract, blood vessels, and respiratory pathways, controlling functions that never reach conscious awareness. When your stomach contracts to digest food, or your arteries narrow to maintain blood pressure, it is smooth muscle doing its quiet work. This tissue reacts slowly, but can sustain contractions for long periods, ensuring stability and control in vital systems. Cardiac muscle, found only in the heart, combines features of both types. It contracts rhythmically and continuously without rest, generating the pulse that sustains every cell in the body. Its structure allows waves of contraction to pass through the heart in an orderly sequence, pumping blood efficiently through the circulatory system. Specialized cells within the heart, known as pacemaker cells, maintain the rhythm, sending electrical signals that spread through muscle fibers automatically. Muscles do not work alone. They operate in groups called agonists and antagonists. When one contracts, the other relaxes, allowing smooth and balanced movement. This system ensures precision, preventing injury and maintaining posture. Even when you appear motionless, tiny muscular contractions are taking place, stabilizing your position against gravity. The control of movement involves a constant feedback loop between the muscles, the spinal cord, and the brain. Sensory receptors within the muscles, called proprioceptors, report on tension and position, allowing the brain to adjust force and timing in real time. This communication happens faster than conscious thought, creating a seamless flow of action. When muscles contract repeatedly, they consume oxygen and nutrients, producing carbon dioxide and lactic acid as byproducts. Fatigue occurs when energy supplies drop or waste accumulates, signaling the need for rest. During recovery, muscles repair microscopic damage caused by exertion, growing stronger and more efficient. This cycle of stress and repair is how endurance and strength are built. The reflective side of muscle function lies in its quiet discipline. Every motion we make, from a smile to a heartbeat, represents a conversion of energy into action. Muscles turn thought into movement, intention into result. They are the body's response to will, the bridge between desire and reality. And when the day slows, muscles become the first to guide the body toward rest. As you lie still, electrical activity fades, and tension gradually releases from neck, shoulders, and limbs. The process is not sudden. It is a gradual letting go, a return to balance after effort. This is where the body prepares for sleep, when the rhythm of breath steadies and muscle tone softens, allowing energy to shift from motion to restoration. Even in that stillness, the muscles continue their essential work. The heart beats, the diaphragm moves air in and out, and small adjustments keep you comfortable as you drift. Sleep is not the absence of motion, but a reorganization of it, a shift from outward action to inward repair. To understand muscles is to understand both strength and surrender. They are symbols of vitality, yet they also teach rest. Whether lifting a weight or drawing a slow breath before sleep, the same system of fibers, ions, and impulses is at work. Each contraction and release, each movement and pause, serves the body's unbroken rhythm, the constant balance between effort and recovery that keeps life in motion. Every movement, thought, and emotion depends on a vast communication network inside the body, the nervous system. It functions as both a control center and a messenger service, receiving information from the senses, processing it in the brain, and sending signals to every organ and muscle. Though its structure is fragile, its coordination is one of nature's most complex designs. The nervous system is divided into two main parts: the central nervous system, which includes the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, which extends outward through countless branching nerves. The central system interprets information and makes decisions, while the peripheral system carries out those decisions, transmitting commands to every cell that responds to electrical control. At the heart of this system are neurons, specialized cells that transmit electrical impulses. A typical neuron has three main parts: the cell body, which contains the nucleus and basic machinery of life; dendrites, which receive incoming signals; and a long axon, which sends electrical impulses to other cells. These impulses travel at speeds reaching hundreds of kilometers per hour, allowing almost instant reaction to the world around you. Communication between neurons happens at junctions called synapses. When an electrical signal reaches the end of an axon, it triggers the release of chemical messengers known as neurotransmitters. These cross the tiny gap to the next neuron, where they bind to receptors and generate a new signal. This process repeats billions of times every second, forming the basis for every thought, movement, and sensation. Some signals travel downward through the spinal cord to control reflexes, quick, automatic responses that protect the body. When you touch something hot, for example, Your hand pulls away before your brain even processes the pain. The reflex arc bypasses conscious thought, ensuring speed and safety. The brain, the central hub of this system, consumes about 20% of the body's total energy, despite weighing only a small fraction of its mass. Billions of neurons form intricate networks, mapping sensation, memory, and behavior. The cerebrum manages higher thought and voluntary motion, the cerebellum coordinates balance and precision, and the brainstem oversees automatic processes like breathing and heart rate. These structures work together seamlessly, maintaining the body's internal stability while allowing the mind to explore the external world. Glial cells, once considered mere support cells, now are known to play a vital role. They insulate neurons, remove waste, and regulate the chemical environment that allows proper signaling. Without them, the electrical dialogue of the brain would break down. This cooperation between neuron and glia mirrors the body's broader principle: no part works in isolation. When you see, hear, or touch something, sensory neurons carry information from the body to the brain. When you act, motor neurons send instructions back to the muscles. Between these two directions of flow lies integration, the brain's remarkable ability to interpret, prioritize, and respond. The fact that all this happens within milliseconds explains how you can catch a falling object, recognize a friend's voice, or adjust your balance on uneven ground without conscious thought. From a reflective view, the nervous system represents awareness itself. It translates the world into electrical language, then transforms that language into action and understanding. It is the link between perception and response, between the external and the internal. Even in stillness, the system remains active. As you rest, neurons adjust firing patterns, memories consolidate, and the brain cleanses itself of metabolic waste through the glymphatic system. The body may appear quiet, but inside, countless electrical signals continue their steady rhythm. To grasp the nervous system is to see how thought becomes action and how awareness gives rise to being. It is a structure built not for noise, but for precision, an endless conversation of tiny sparks that together form the experience of life. The brain is the command center of the nervous system, a compact mass of tissue that weighs little more than a kilogram, yet controls every breath, movement, and memory. It contains around 86 billion neurons, each forming thousands of connections. Together, they create networks capable of perception, learning, and thought. The structure may look chaotic, but beneath the surface lies precise organization. The brain's outer layer, the cerebral cortex, is responsible for higher functions such as reasoning, language, and imagination. It is divided into regions. The frontal lobes handle decision-making and voluntary motion. The parietal lobes process touch and spatial awareness. The temporal lobes manage hearing and memory. And the occipital lobes decode visual input. Beneath the cortex lies the limbic system, the emotional core that connects feeling with motivation. Deeper still, the brainstem regulates basic survival functions: heartbeat, breathing, and sleep. Each region works independently yet remains in constant communication with the others. Electrical activity within the brain never stops. Neurons fire in coordinated patterns that form measurable rhythms known as brainwaves. These oscillations, detected by electroencephalography (EEG), reflect the brain's overall state. Fast beta waves dominate during concentration. Alpha waves appear in relaxed wakefulness. Theta waves emerge in early sleep, and delta waves mark the deep stages of rest. These rhythmic fluctuations guide attention, learning, and recovery, linking mental state with physical function. Information travels through the brain along networks rather than fixed pathways. When you recall a memory or solve a problem, groups of neurons synchronize their firing patterns across different regions. This coordination is known as neural oscillation coupling, and it allows separate parts of the brain to act as one. The result is seamless thought, a continuous flow of awareness that feels unified even though it emerges from countless micro-events. Chemistry and electricity work together to sustain this system. Neurotransmitters such as dopamine, serotonin, and acetylcholine regulate mood, alertness, and motivation. Small shifts in their concentration can change how the brain perceives and reacts. Every emotion, from calm to excitement, corresponds to specific patterns of neural activity and chemical release. Despite its complexity, the brain is remarkably energy efficient. It uses less power than a household light bulb, yet performs trillions of calculations every second. Blood flow adjusts constantly, delivering oxygen and glucose to the most active regions. The brain's vascular system is so finely tuned that even slight changes in demand are met within moments. The brain is also dynamic. Neurons can form new connections, a property known as neuroplasticity. Learning a skill, practicing a language, or adapting after injury all rely on this ability to rewire and strengthen neural pathways. This adaptability continues throughout life, showing that the brain is not fixed but continuously reshaped by experience. From a reflective perspective, these rhythms and changes mirror the flow of daily life. Just as the brain alternates between alertness and rest, people move through cycles of activity and renewal. The alternation of brain waves during sleep, for example, is nature's way of balancing effort and restoration. Memory consolidation, emotional processing, and physical repair all occur while the conscious mind drifts. Even as you listen now, your brain adjusts its activity, slowing certain areas, focusing others, preparing for rest. The balance between energy and quiet, between signal and pause, is what allows clarity to emerge. Understanding the brain's hidden rhythms reminds us that rest is not the opposite of action. It is part of the same continuous pattern that keeps both mind and body alive. The human body interacts with its surroundings through a complex network of sensors that gather information and send it to the brain for interpretation. These systems allow us to perceive light, sound, temperature, pressure, taste, and scent. Together, they construct the experience we call reality. Yet what we perceive is not the world itself, but the brain's reconstruction of it, a version translated into electrical signals and meaning. There are 5 classical senses: sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. Each begins with specialized cells designed to detect specific types of energy. The eyes respond to light, the ears to vibrations in air, the skin to pressure and temperature, the tongue to chemicals dissolved in saliva, and the nose to molecules floating in the air. These cells, known as receptors, convert physical stimuli into electrical impulses through a process called sensory transduction. Once created, these impulses travel through sensory nerves toward the brain. There, the information is organized, filtered, and interpreted. A flash of light becomes the sight of a tree. Air vibrations become the sound of a voice. Molecules in the air become the faint scent of rain. The nervous system translates energy into understanding, allowing the mind to build a coherent model of the world. Each sense has its own path and speed. Visual information moves quickly through the optic nerve, reaching the occipital lobe in less than 1/10 of a second. Sound signals pass through the auditory nerve to the temporal lobes. Touch travels through the spinal cord to the sensory cortex, mapping the entire body across a strip of brain tissue known as the homunculus, a representation where fingertips, tongue, and lips occupy the largest space due to their sensitivity. The senses do not work independently. They cooperate, blending information to refine accuracy. When you watch someone speak, for example, your brain combines visual cues with sound to understand words more clearly. This integration called multisensory processing, explains why a dish seems to taste different when its aroma is blocked, or why motion sickness occurs when vision and balance send conflicting messages. Touch, perhaps the most fundamental sense, covers the entire body. It warns of pain, signals temperature, and conveys comfort. Beneath every layer of skin lie receptors tuned to specific sensations. Some detect vibration, others respond to stretching, and others to heat or cold. The meditative reflection here is simple. Contact is both physical and emotional. A gentle touch can alter heart rate, calm the mind, and release oxytocin, the hormone associated with trust and connection. Taste and smell are closely related. Together they create flavor. Taste buds on the tongue identify sweetness, saltiness, sourness, bitterness, and umami, while olfactory receptors in the nasal cavity detect thousands of chemical compounds. These signals combine in the brain's limbic system, linking flavor directly to memory and emotion. That is why a single scent can recall childhood with perfect clarity. The pathways of smell lead straight into the regions that store feeling. From a reflective view, the senses form a dialogue between the self and the environment. They remind us that perception is not passive, it is active construction. Every color seen, every note heard, is filtered through expectation and attention. The world you experience is not simply what exists outside, but also what your mind allows in. Even when external stimuli fade, when the eyes close and the world grows quiet, the brain continues to simulate sensations. It dreams, replays, and imagines. The senses never truly switch off. They shift from external input to internal memory, allowing perception to persist even in sleep. Through the senses, we do not merely survive, we connect. They translate the physical into the personal, turning energy into experience. The 5 gateways of perception open the way not only to knowledge, but to meaning, the ongoing exchange between the body and the world that surrounds it. Vision begins with light, electromagnetic radiation that travels in waves, entering the eye through a precisely designed optical system. Every blink resets this system, keeping it clean and hydrated, ready to receive another stream of photons. The process that turns these waves into images is both simple in principle and extraordinary in detail. Light first passes through the cornea, a clear, curved surface that bends incoming rays to begin focusing them. It then moves through the pupil, the dark opening at the center of the iris, which expands or contracts to regulate how much light enters. Behind the iris sits the lens, which fine-tunes focus by changing shape through the action of small muscles. This mechanism allows the eye to shift instantly between a distant horizon and the words on a page. After passing through the transparent vitreous humor, light reaches the retina, a thin layer of tissue lining the back of the eye. Here, specialized receptor cells, rods and cones, convert light into electrical signals. Rods are highly sensitive and function best in dim light, giving us night vision and the ability to detect motion. Cones, concentrated in the central region called the fovea, respond to color and fine detail. There are 3 types of cones, each tuned to a different wavelength, corresponding roughly to red, green, or blue. The combination of their activity creates the full spectrum of visible color. These electrical signals travel along the optic nerve toward the brain. Interestingly, the image projected onto the retina is inverted, upside down and reversed. It is the brain, not the eye, that corrects this, reconstructing a coherent picture of the world. At the optic chiasm, fibers from each eye cross so that information from the right visual field is processed by the left hemisphere and vice versa. This arrangement allows depth perception and a wide, continuous field of view. The visual cortex, located in the occipital lobe, performs the final stage of interpretation. It detects edges, motion, brightness, and patterns, gradually combining them into recognizable forms. What you see is not simply light falling on the retina, but a real-time synthesis of data, memory, and expectation. The brain filters and predicts, filling gaps, correcting color, and emphasizing motion, all within fractions of a second. Vision is also shaped by chemistry. Photoreceptor cells contain a pigment called rhodopsin, which changes shape when struck by light. This triggers a cascade of reactions that ultimately generate the electrical signal sent to the brain. When rhodopsin is bleached by bright light, it takes time to regenerate, explaining why eyes need a few moments to adjust when you move from daylight into darkness. From a reflective perspective, seeing is more than receiving light. It is understanding pattern. Every glance is a negotiation between the external world and the inner interpretation of it. The color you perceive is not a property of objects themselves, but the brain's translation of wavelengths into experience. In that sense, vision is a dialogue between physics and perception, a meeting point where matter becomes meaning. The eye also reflects the brain's constant demand for balance. It shifts between focus and rest, light and dark, detail and distance. During the day, the muscles of the iris and lens work continuously. At night, they relax. Even when the eyelids close, the eyes move beneath them, following the images of dreams during rapid eye movement sleep. Light may begin the process of seeing, but it is the brain that brings the world to life. The act of vision is both mechanical and interpretive, photons striking molecules, signals becoming shapes, and shapes becoming memory. In every moment of sight, science and experience merge, revealing how the universe outside becomes the image within. Hearing begins not with the ear, but with motion, the vibration of air molecules moving through space. These oscillations, created by voices, instruments, or even wind against leaves, travel outward in waves. The ear captures these waves, converts them into electrical signals, and sends them to the brain, which interprets them as sound. The entire process happens with precision measured in thousandths of a second. The human ear is divided into three main regions: the outer ear, middle ear, and inner ear. The outer ear includes the visible pinna, the curved structure that collects and funnels sound into the ear canal. Its shape amplifies certain frequencies and helps identify the direction of sound. At the canal's end lies the tympanic membrane, or eardrum, a thin sheet of tissue that vibrates in response to air pressure changes. Behind the eardrum is the middle ear, a small cavity containing three delicate bones known as the ossicles, the malleus, incus, and stapes, often called the hammer, anvil, and stirrup. These bones form a mechanical bridge that transfers vibration from the eardrum to the oval window, the entrance to the inner ear. By amplifying force and reducing amplitude, they ensure that even faint sounds can trigger a clear signal. The middle ear also includes the eustachian tube, which equalizes air pressure on both sides of the eardrum, maintaining accurate sound transmission. The inner ear houses the cochlea, a spiral-shaped structure filled with fluid and lined with thousands of tiny hair cells. When the stapes moves against the oval window, it sends waves through the fluid, bending the hair cells in patterns that correspond to specific frequencies. High-pitched sounds activate cells near the base of the cochlea, while low tones reach the apex. These mechanical movements are converted into electrical impulses, which travel along the auditory nerve to the brain. Within the auditory cortex, these impulses are decoded and organized. The brain distinguishes pitch, volume, and timing, identifying familiar sounds within milliseconds. It can focus on one voice in a crowded room or detect the faint hum of a refrigerator against background noise. This selective attention shows that hearing is not just reception, it is interpretation. The ear also contributes to balance through a nearby structure called the vestibular system. It contains semicircular canals and small sacs filled with fluid and tiny crystals that respond to gravity and motion. When you turn your head, the fluid moves, bending hair cells and signaling the brain about orientation and acceleration. This coordination between the auditory and vestibular systems allows stable vision and posture even while moving. Sound itself is a physical phenomenon, but what we experience as tone or music arises entirely from perception. The brain compares frequencies, detects patterns, and interprets them as melody or rhythm. A vibration of 440 cycles per second becomes the note A. Multiple vibrations form harmony, and timing transforms them into rhythm. Language, emotion, and even memory depend on the ability to distinguish subtle variations in sound. From a reflective perspective, hearing connects the inner and outer worlds. Unlike sight, which depends on direction and light, sound reaches us from every angle, even in darkness. It is the sense that works when others rest, the one that keeps us aware of presence and distance, of someone's approach, of rain against the window. The act of listening is therefore more than mechanical, it is relational. It links the self to the environment through vibration, an invisible thread of awareness. Even as you rest, the ears remain active. Hair cells continue to respond to sound waves, and the brain keeps filtering what matters from what does not. When sleep deepens, certain frequencies, like a loved one's voice, still register, triggering subtle responses. Hearing, in this way, bridges wakefulness and rest, keeping a small window open between consciousness and the world beyond it. Sound is the body's reminder that energy travels through connection. Each vibration, each note, carries motion that began somewhere else and ends in perception. The ear, with its precise mechanics and sensitive translation, turns air into meaning, the music of air transformed into the language of the mind. Breathing is the body's most essential rhythm, a constant exchange that connects us with the air around us. The lungs draw oxygen in, release carbon dioxide out, and maintain the delicate balance that keeps every cell alive. This process, though automatic, is one of the most precisely regulated systems in biology. Air enters through the nose or mouth, passes down the trachea, and divides into two bronchi, each leading to a lung. These branches continue dividing into smaller bronchioles, forming a network that ends in microscopic sacs called alveoli. The lungs contain roughly 300 million alveoli, giving them an enormous surface area, about 70 square meters, roughly the size of a tennis court. Across these thin membranes, gas exchange takes place. When you inhale, the diaphragm, a dome-shaped muscle beneath the lungs, contracts and moves downward. This increases the space in the chest cavity, drawing air in. When you exhale, the diaphragm relaxes, allowing the lungs to deflate. Between the ribs, intercostal muscles assist this motion, expanding and contracting the chest with every breath. This continuous cycle happens around 20,000 times per day, whether you are awake or asleep. Inside the alveoli, oxygen passes into surrounding capillaries, where it binds to hemoglobin in red blood cells. This oxygen-rich blood travels to the heart, which pumps it to the rest of the body. At the same time, carbon dioxide, a waste product of metabolism, moves in the opposite direction, leaving the blood and exiting through exhalation. This dual movement, known as respiratory gas exchange, is essential for energy production and pH balance in the body. The brainstem regulates breathing automatically through a cluster of neurons called the respiratory center. These neurons monitor the concentration of carbon dioxide in the blood and adjust breathing rate accordingly. When carbon dioxide rises, signals are sent to increase respiration. When it falls, breathing slows. This constant feedback loop ensures stability without conscious effort. However, breathing is one of the few automatic functions you can control at will. Slowing your breath can lower heart rate and reduce stress, while rapid breathing can increase alertness. This flexibility makes the respiratory system unique, a direct bridge between voluntary and involuntary control, between body and mind. The air you breathe is more than oxygen. It carries moisture, temperature, and countless microscopic particles. The cilia and mucous membranes lining your airways filter and trap these particles, keeping the lungs clean. Coughing and sneezing are reflexes that clear irritants, maintaining healthy airflow. Every breath, though ordinary, is an act of cleansing and renewal. From a reflective view, breathing is the body's simplest reminder of connection. It links the internal world to the external with every inhale and exhale. The oxygen that sustains your life was produced by plants and oceans, and the carbon dioxide you release becomes part of the same cycle that feeds them. The exchange never truly ends, it only changes form. And as you settle into stillness, your breath slows naturally. This gentle rhythm signals to the body that it is safe to rest. The same system that powers motion also guides calm. Each slow inhalation brings oxygen to tired muscles and a quiet pulse to the brain. Each exhalation releases tension, carrying with it the residue of effort. If you are listening as you prepare to sleep, notice how your breathing has already adjusted. Deeper, slower, easier. The lungs continue their quiet work, trading gases, keeping you balanced without thought. Even as consciousness fades, the breath endures, its rhythm constant and dependable. It is the body's oldest pattern, the movement that began at birth and will only stop at the end of life. Breathing teaches one of nature's simplest truths. To live is to exchange. Every inhale welcomes the world in. Every exhale gives something back. Between those two movements lies the calm balance that sustains all life, a reminder that rest, like breathing, is a form of continuity, not an interruption of it. At the center of the body's circulation lies a single, tireless organ, the heart. It begins beating long before birth and continues until life's final moment, never resting, never pausing. Each contraction moves blood through a vast network of vessels, delivering oxygen, nutrients, and chemical signals to every cell. Though only about the size of a clenched fist, the heart performs mechanical and chemical work that sustains every other system. The heart sits slightly to the left of the midline in the chest, protected by the rib cage and surrounded by a fluid-filled sac called the pericardium. It has 4 chambers: the right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, and left ventricle. Blood flows through this structure in a repeating sequence. Deoxygenated blood returns from the body to the right atrium, moves into the right ventricle, and is pumped to the lungs through the pulmonary artery. There, carbon dioxide is exchanged for oxygen. The oxygen-rich blood returns to the left side of the heart, where the left ventricle pumps it through the aorta into the entire body. This cycle repeats roughly once every second. Valves between the chambers ensure one-way flow, opening and closing in precise coordination. The familiar lub-dub sound of the heartbeat comes from these valves closing, a rhythm so steady that small deviations can signal changes in health. The pressure generated with each beat pushes blood through arteries, while the elastic recoil of those arteries helps sustain movement between contractions. Electrical impulses control this motion. A small cluster of cells in the right atrium, called the sinoatrial node, acts as a natural pacemaker. It generates an electrical signal that spreads through the heart muscle, causing it to contract. This pulse travels through the atrioventricular node, then down specialized fibers known as the bundle of His and Purkinje fibers, ensuring that the ventricles contract together. Every heartbeat is an electrical event, followed by a wave of motion. The heart's muscle tissue, cardiac muscle, is unique. It is strong like skeletal muscle, but works automatically like smooth muscle. Each fiber is connected to the next through small junctions that allow signals to pass instantly, making the heart contract as a unified whole. This design provides both strength and endurance. The heart can never truly rest. Instead, it alternates between contraction and relaxation, effort and recovery within every beat. Blood flow through the heart adjusts automatically to the body's needs. During rest, it may pump about 5 liters per minute. During exertion, it can increase output more than 5-fold. Hormones, nerve impulses, and local chemical signals all regulate this adaptability. The heart reacts to emotion as well as activity. Anxiety, joy, or calm all leave measurable imprints on its rhythm. From a reflective perspective, the heart represents both motion and consistency. It never stops working, yet it beats quietly enough to go unnoticed most of the time. It marks time within the body more precisely than any clock, each beat a measure of continuity. Even as you read or listen, that pulse continues, steady and precise, maintaining life through endless repetition. The rhythmic pattern of the heartbeat echoes throughout nature, in ocean waves, in the alternation of day and night, in breathing and sleep. These cycles remind us that vitality does not depend on constant action but on balanced repetition. The heart shows that strength lies not in speed or noise, but in dependable rhythm. When you lie still at night, your heart slows as the body shifts toward rest. The same organ that drives movement also supports stillness, delivering calm through reduced pressure and quieter pulses. It keeps working gently as you drift into sleep, sustaining the flow of life through silence. In every sense, the heart is both engine and metronome, the body's most persistent rhythm, carrying the story of existence from its first beat to its last. The blood that moves through the body is a living fluid, a transport system that nourishes, cleanses, and connects every organ. It carries oxygen from the lungs to the tissues, delivers nutrients from the digestive system, and returns carbon dioxide and waste for removal. Beyond transport, it also distributes hormones, regulates temperature, and forms part of the immune defense. With each heartbeat, blood travels through an intricate network of vessels that together stretch for more than 90,000 kilometers, long enough to circle the Earth twice. Blood consists of plasma and formed elements, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Plasma, a clear liquid mostly made of water, carries dissolved proteins, electrolytes, and nutrients. It acts as the medium through which everything else moves. Red blood cells, or erythrocytes, make up almost half the volume of blood. Their distinctive shape, a flexible disc, increases surface area for gas exchange. Packed with hemoglobin, they bind oxygen in the lungs and release it in tissues where it is needed. White blood cells, or leukocytes, form the body's mobile defense units. They detect and destroy pathogens, remove debris, and communicate with other immune components through chemical signals called cytokines. Platelets, small fragments of larger cells, initiate clotting. When a vessel is damaged, they adhere to the site, release factors that trigger the formation of fibrin threads, and stop bleeding while tissue repair begins. The network that carries this fluid is divided into arteries, capillaries, and veins. Arteries transport oxygenated blood away from the heart under high pressure. Their muscular walls stretch with each pulse and recoil between beats, maintaining steady flow. The smallest arteries, called arterioles, regulate blood distribution by contracting or relaxing in response to local needs. Capillaries form the exchange interface between blood and tissue. Their thin walls, just 1 cell thick, allow gases, nutrients, and waste to pass through by diffusion. Every cell in the body lies within a fraction of a millimeter from a capillary, ensuring efficient contact with the bloodstream. After exchange, the blood enters venules and then veins, returning toward the heart. Unlike arteries, veins operate under lower pressure and rely on valves and surrounding muscle contractions to keep blood moving upward, especially in the legs. When you walk, each step compresses veins, pushing blood against gravity back to the heart. Blood flow is directed by demand. During exercise, more blood moves to muscles. After eating, it concentrates in the digestive system. The brain receives a constant share, protected by autoregulation that keeps flow steady even when blood pressure changes. This adaptability reflects the body's priority system, always maintaining balance among its organs. Temperature regulation also depends on circulation. When you are warm, blood vessels near the skin widen to release heat. When cold, they constrict to conserve it. Through these adjustments, blood not only sustains life, but moderates the body's internal climate. From a reflective perspective, the circulatory system can be seen as a map of connection. Every cell participates in the same flow, receiving what it needs and returning what it cannot use. The pulse that travels through the arteries is the same wave that reaches the fingertips a moment later, a quiet reminder of unity. Even at rest, the blood never stops. It flows during thought, during silence, during sleep. The pulse you feel beneath your wrist is the same rhythm that feeds the brain and warms the skin. Within those unseen rivers, energy and information travel ceaselessly, linking all parts of the body into a single living whole. Life depends on this movement. The stillness of the body is an illusion. Inside, motion continues without pause. Each drop of blood travels a circuit of purpose, returning again and again, part of the continuous rhythm that defines existence. The heart sets the pace, but the vessels carry the song, a quiet current that keeps the body alive and aware, one heartbeat at a time. The journey of nourishment begins the moment food enters the mouth. The digestive system transforms what you eat into the chemical components the body needs: glucose for energy, amino acids for repair, and lipids for storage and insulation. This transformation depends on mechanical motion, precise chemistry, and coordinated timing across a long and complex pathway. Digestion starts in the oral cavity, where teeth break food into smaller pieces and mix it with saliva. Saliva contains enzymes such as amylase, which begins breaking down carbohydrates even before swallowing. The tongue positions food for chewing and then pushes it toward the back of the throat, triggering swallowing. A small flap of tissue called the epiglottis closes over the trachea, directing food safely into the esophagus. The esophagus is a muscular tube, about 25 centimeters long. It uses rhythmic contractions called peristalsis to move food downward toward the stomach. At its lower end, a ring of muscle, the lower esophageal sphincter, relaxes to allow entry into the stomach and then closes again to prevent backflow. Inside the stomach, mechanical churning and chemical digestion work together. Glands in the stomach lining secrete hydrochloric acid and pepsinogen, which combine to form pepsin, an enzyme that breaks proteins into smaller fragments. The acidic environment also kills most microorganisms, protecting the body from infection. Mucus coats the stomach wall to prevent self-digestion. After several hours, the food becomes a semi-liquid mixture called chyme. From the stomach, chyme enters the small intestine, where most absorption occurs. The duodenum, first section of the small intestine, receives digestive juices from the pancreas and liver. Pancreatic enzymes split carbohydrates, proteins, and fats into simpler molecules, while bile from the liver emulsifies fats, increasing their surface area for digestion. The jejunum and ileum, the remaining sections, are lined with millions of villi, microscopic folds that vastly increase surface area. Through these villi, nutrients pass into the bloodstream or the lymphatic system for distribution throughout the body. What remains then moves into the large intestine, or colon, where water and electrolytes are reabsorbed. Beneficial bacteria living there, The gut microbiota break down remaining material, producing certain vitamins and gases as byproducts. These microorganisms form a vital partnership with the body, supporting immune health and influencing metabolism. Waste that cannot be used is eventually expelled, completing the digestive cycle. Each step of digestion is regulated by neural and hormonal signals. The brain's enteric nervous system, sometimes called the second brain, operates independently yet communicates with the central nervous system. It coordinates muscle contractions and secretion timing so efficiently that the entire process proceeds without conscious thought. Hormones such as gastrin, secretin, and cholecystokinin ensure that enzymes and bile are released precisely when needed. From a reflective standpoint, digestion is a quiet demonstration of balance and cooperation. Every meal you eat becomes part of you through an unbroken sequence of transformations, each one invisible yet vital. The body dismantles the external world and rebuilds it as itself. This process links you continuously to your surroundings, what grows in the soil, what flows in the ocean, what breathes the same air. Even in stillness or sleep, digestion continues at its own pace. Muscles move, enzymes work, and cells absorb nutrients. The body is never idle. It simply shifts focus from motion to maintenance. Each breath you take fuels the process, and each heartbeat carries the products of digestion to every tissue in need. Understanding digestion is to recognize how unity emerges from complexity. A series of chemical reactions, mechanical motions, and microbial partnerships transform the world's raw materials into life. Within this continuous exchange lies the quiet truth of being alive, that sustenance and transformation are one and the same. Among all the organs that quietly sustain life, the liver stands out for its versatility. It is both a filter and a chemical factory, continuously processing the raw materials that enter the bloodstream. Every nutrient absorbed from the digestive tract passes through the liver before reaching the rest of the body. Here, sugars, fats, and proteins are converted, stored, or released depending on need. This constant regulation keeps the internal environment stable, regardless of diet, exertion, or rest. The liver is the largest internal organ, weighing about 1.5 kilograms in an adult. It sits beneath the diaphragm, on the right side of the abdomen, protected by the rib cage. Its structure is organized into small, functional units called lobules, each containing thousands of liver cells known as hepatocytes. Blood from the intestines arrives through the portal vein, rich in nutrients but also containing toxins and metabolic byproducts. The liver filters this blood, neutralizing harmful substances and redistributing useful compounds. One of its most important roles is detoxification. Hepatocytes contain enzymes that modify ammonia, alcohol, and drugs, rendering them less harmful and preparing them for excretion through urine or bile. In this way, the liver acts as a biochemical guardian, protecting other organs from damage. The liver also manages the body's energy economy. When blood sugar levels rise after a meal, it stores excess glucose as glycogen. When levels fall, glycogen is broken down and released back into the bloodstream. The same principle applies to fats and proteins. The liver converts fatty acids into forms that can be used for energy and synthesizes essential proteins such as albumin and clotting factors. This constant balancing act ensures that every cell has access to fuel and that the blood's chemical composition remains within safe limits. Another vital function is the production of bile, a fluid that helps digest fats. Bile flows through small ducts in the liver, collecting in the gallbladder before being released into the small intestine. It emulsifies fat molecules, breaking them into droplets that enzymes can easily process. Through this role, the liver links the metabolic and digestive systems into one seamless operation. The liver is also remarkable for its regenerative capacity. If part of it is damaged or removed, the remaining tissue can grow back to full size within weeks. This ability results from the high replicative potential of hepatocytes and the organ's efficient vascular system. Few other organs possess this level of resilience. From a reflective perspective, the liver embodies quiet responsibility. It performs hundreds of functions simultaneously, none of which draw attention until something goes wrong. It maintains the chemistry of life silently, asking for nothing but balance in return. Its patience mirrors the broader principle of the body, stability through constant adaptation. When you rest or sleep, the liver does not slow down. It continues processing nutrients, synthesizing proteins, and cleansing the blood. The calm you feel externally hides an immense amount of internal work. Every night, while the mind drifts, the liver refines the raw materials of life, restoring order molecule by molecule. This steady, unseen labor underscores how life depends as much on preservation as on action. The liver reminds us that true strength lies in quiet consistency, in systems that never stop keeping the body clean, fueled, and in balance. Beneath the still surface of rest, this organ remains active, ensuring that when you wake, every cell is ready to begin another day of motion and renewal. Deep within the lower back, just below the rib cage, sit two small organs that quietly regulate the chemistry of life: the kidneys. Their shape is simple, their task immense. Every day, they filter around 180 liters of blood, reclaiming nearly all of it while removing excess water, salts, and waste products. They maintain the body's internal balance with a precision unmatched by any machine. Each kidney contains about 1 million functional units called nephrons, microscopic filtration systems arranged in dense layers. Blood enters each nephron through a cluster of capillaries known as the glomerulus, where pressure forces water and dissolved substances out of the bloodstream into a thin-walled capsule. From there, this filtered fluid, called filtrate, travels through a long, winding tube where reabsorption and secretion take place. Essential molecules such as glucose, amino acids, and electrolytes are reclaimed, while toxins and excess ions are left behind to form urine. The kidney's ability to distinguish what to keep and what to release depends on both physical and chemical processes. Specialized transporters within nephron cells move substances selectively, guided by hormonal signals. Aldosterone and antidiuretic hormone, ADH, are two key messengers. Aldosterone, produced by the adrenal glands, increases sodium reabsorption, helping retain water and maintain blood pressure. ADH, released by the pituitary gland, controls how much water is reabsorbed in the final segments of the nephron. Together, these hormones fine-tune the body's hydration level minute by minute. The final product, urine, collects in the renal pelvis, flows through the ureters to the bladder, and is eventually excreted through the urethra. This removal of waste is essential for chemical stability. Without it, nitrogen compounds and acids would accumulate rapidly, poisoning cells. The kidneys thus act as both filters and regulators, balancing the composition of the blood with constant vigilance. They also play a critical role in controlling blood pressure. When blood flow to the kidneys drops, they release an enzyme called renin, initiating the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. This cascade constricts blood vessels and signals the body to retain salt and water, restoring pressure. It is a perfect example of feedback control, an automatic adjustment that protects equilibrium without conscious awareness. Another key function is maintaining the body's acid-base balance. The kidneys excrete hydrogen ions and reabsorb bicarbonate, keeping the blood's pH within the narrow range necessary for enzyme activity. They also regulate calcium and phosphate, influencing bone health, and produce erythropoietin, a hormone that stimulates red blood cell production in the bone marrow. These combined roles make the kidneys central to nearly every system in the body. From a reflective perspective, the kidneys are the silent moderators of existence. They work without sensation or rest, responding to subtle changes that most people will never notice. Even while you sleep, they continue to measure, filter, and adjust, preserving stability through continuous motion. Their function is an example of nature's precision, small organs maintaining vast control. If the body can be seen as a city, the kidneys are its purification plants and resource managers, ensuring that nothing harmful accumulates and nothing essential is wasted. They remind us that health depends less on perfection than on regulation, the constant, quiet correction of imbalance. Every drop of blood that leaves your heart will pass through your kidneys dozens of times today. Each pass renews balance, washes away what no longer serves, and returns clarity to the system. The rhythm of filtration and flow continues throughout life, maintaining order so that all else may function smoothly. In their quiet persistence, the kidneys reveal the beauty of stability, not static stillness, but harmony maintained through constant adjustment. They are proof that balance is not a state to be achieved once, but a process to be lived, moment after moment, day and night. The immune system is the body's defense network, a coordinated army of cells and molecules that protect against infection, repair damage, and remember threats long after they have passed. It operates constantly and silently, distinguishing between what belongs to the body and what does not. Every breath, every touch, exposes you to foreign material, yet most never cause illness, because this system identifies and neutralizes them before you even notice. Immunity begins with barriers. The skin blocks invasion, its surface covered with beneficial microbes that outcompete harmful ones. Mucous membranes line the respiratory and digestive tracts, trapping particles and pathogens. Enzymes in saliva, tears, and stomach acid destroy many microbes on contact. These first defenses form the innate immune system, the body's immediate response to danger. When something breaches those barriers, cells of the innate response move quickly into action. White blood cells, called phagocytes, including macrophages and neutrophils, engulf and digest invaders. Other cells, such as natural killer cells, detect infected or abnormal body cells and trigger their destruction. This first wave of response is fast but non-specific, targeting anything recognized as foreign. At the same time, the adaptive immune system begins its slower but more precise work. Lymphocytes, primarily B cells and T cells, identify specific antigens, unique molecular signatures on pathogens. B cells produce antibodies, Y-shaped proteins that bind to invaders and mark them for elimination. T cells destroy infected cells directly or coordinate other immune functions. Once an infection is cleared, some of these lymphocytes remain as memory cells, ready to respond instantly if the same threat returns. The immune system relies on constant communication through cytokines, chemical messengers that coordinate activity across tissues. Inflammation, often seen as redness or swelling, is part of this process. It increases blood flow, bringing immune cells to the affected area and speeding healing. When the response is complete, other signals suppress inflammation, restoring balance. The organs of immunity are distributed throughout the body. The bone marrow produces immune cells, the thymus educates T cells, the lymph nodes act as checkpoints where immune cells meet and filter pathogens, and the spleen monitors the blood, removing old cells and debris. Even the gut microbiome plays a crucial role, training the immune system to distinguish friend from foe. This vigilance comes at a cost: energy. During infection, the body diverts resources from normal activity to defense. Fever raises temperature to hinder pathogen growth, while fatigue forces rest, allowing repair to proceed. Though uncomfortable, these sensations are signs of the immune system's efficiency, signals that recovery is underway. From a reflective perspective, Immunity mirrors awareness. It pays attention, recognizes patterns, and responds proportionally. It learns from experience, retaining memory of every encounter. Within you exists a biological form of wisdom, the ability to adapt, remember, and prepare. Even as you rest, this system remains active. While you sleep, immune cells circulate and memory strengthens. Research shows that sleep improves antibody formation and increases communication between immune networks. The stillness of rest is, in truth, a time of reinforcement, the body quietly improving its defense while consciousness drifts away. If you are lying still now, breathing slowly, that same unseen system is at work, protecting and repairing. The mind may wander toward dreams, but deep within, cells continue their watch. Every heartbeat and breath carries immune cells on their patrol, ensuring that balance endures through the night. The immune system demonstrates that protection need not be aggressive. It can be intelligent, measured, and calm. It reminds us that strength often looks like readiness, a quiet capacity to respond when needed and rest when peace returns. It is the body's unending guardian, preserving continuity even as the mind slips gently into sleep. The skin is the body's largest organ and its first line of defense, a flexible barrier that shields the inner world from the outer one. Covering roughly 2 square meters and weighing several kilograms, it regulates temperature, prevents fluid loss, and blocks countless pathogens every day. Despite being only a few millimeters thick, the skin performs hundreds of tasks at once, maintaining the balance that keeps life stable. Structurally, the skin has 3 main layers: the epidermis, dermis, and subcutaneous tissue. The epidermis is the thin outer layer, composed mostly of keratinocytes. These cells form a tough, waterproof barrier as they mature and migrate toward the surface, where they eventually die and flake away. This constant renewal happens on a cycle of about a month. The basal layer at the bottom of the epidermis continuously produces new cells to replace the old, ensuring that the barrier remains intact. Within the epidermis are melanocytes, cells that produce the pigment melanin. Melanin absorbs ultraviolet radiation, protecting DNA from damage caused by sunlight. The variation in skin color among humans reflects adaptations to different intensities of ultraviolet exposure across the planet. This pigment system is not only protective but self-regulating, responding dynamically to environmental conditions. Beneath the epidermis lies the dermis, a thicker layer of connective tissue rich in collagen and elastin fibers. These proteins provide strength and elasticity, allowing skin to stretch and return to shape. Embedded within the dermis are blood vessels, nerves, sweat glands, and hair follicles. Sweat glands help regulate temperature by releasing moisture that cools the body through evaporation, while sebaceous glands secrete oils that keep the surface supple and resistant to water. The subcutaneous layer, or hypodermis, anchors the skin to muscles and bones. It consists largely of fat cells that cushion organs, provide insulation, and serve as an energy reserve. This layer also houses large blood vessels and lymphatic channels, linking the skin to deeper systems of circulation and immunity. The skin is more than a covering. It is a sensory organ in its own right. Tiny nerve endings detect pressure, temperature, vibration, and pain, sending constant feedback to the brain. The fingertips, lips, and face contain some of the densest concentrations of sensory receptors in the body, allowing for extraordinary sensitivity. Touch provides information faster than sight in many situations, a fact the nervous system uses to protect the body through reflexes. Microscopic immune cells also live within the skin. When pathogens attempt to invade, these cells recognize the threat and trigger local inflammation, often before an infection can spread. Cuts and wounds quickly activate repair processes, Clotting stops blood loss, new tissue forms, and collagen fibers reorganize to close the gap. In this way, the skin is both shield and healer, defending and rebuilding at once. From a reflective perspective, the skin marks the boundary between self and environment. It is where you meet the world, both physically and sensorially. Through it, you feel warmth, pressure, and connection. Every breeze, every touch, is translated into a pattern of electrical signals that reach the brain and define presence. The skin also reveals the state of the body within. Temperature changes, hydration, and even emotional shifts can alter its appearance. Flushing, paleness, or goosebumps are visible signs of internal processes. The body communicates through its surface, expressing tension, comfort, or rest without words. At night, as the body cools and blood flow redistributes, the skin participates in rest. Pores open, temperature lowers, and tiny blood vessels near the surface dilate to release heat. The same organ that protects you during the day assists in recovery during sleep, quietly helping the body maintain equilibrium. The skin, always renewing, teaches a simple truth about resilience. Defense and sensitivity can coexist. It is both strong and receptive, an ever-changing shield that protects without separating you from the world. It reminds us that contact, even at the boundary, is what keeps life connected, responsive, and whole. The body's internal communication depends not only on electrical signals but also on chemistry. The endocrine system uses hormones, powerful molecules released in tiny amounts, to coordinate growth, metabolism, reproduction, and emotional balance. These hormones travel through the bloodstream, reaching cells throughout the body and altering their behavior. The messages move slowly compared to nerve impulses, but their effects last longer and reach farther. The system is made up of glands distributed throughout the body, each specialized for particular hormones. At the top of this hierarchy sits the hypothalamus, a small region of the brain that monitors the body's internal state. It links the nervous and endocrine systems, translating neural signals into chemical ones. The hypothalamus controls the pituitary gland, often called the master gland, which in turn directs other glands through a cascade of hormonal signals. The pituitary releases several key hormones. Growth hormone regulates tissue repair and development. Thyroid-stimulating hormone prompts the thyroid gland to control metabolism. Adrenocorticotropic hormone signals the adrenal glands to release stress hormones, such as cortisol, preparing the body for action. Through these pathways, the pituitary coordinates the body's rhythm of energy use, repair, and adaptation. The thyroid gland, located at the front of the neck, secretes hormones that determine how quickly cells use energy. Too much thyroid activity causes restlessness and rapid metabolism. Too little results in fatigue and slowed function. Nearby, the parathyroid glands regulate calcium balance, ensuring proper nerve conduction and muscle contraction. The adrenal glands, perched above the kidneys, produce adrenaline, cortisol, and other steroids. Adrenaline triggers the fight or flight response, increasing heart rate, blood flow, and alertness. Cortisol sustains this reaction over time, helping the body manage stress and regulate inflammation. While these hormones are vital for survival, prolonged elevation can strain the system, showing how balance matters as much as strength. The pancreas serves both digestive and endocrine roles. It releases insulin and glucagon, hormones that control blood sugar. When glucose levels rise after a meal, insulin prompts cells to absorb it for energy or storage. When levels fall, glucagon signals the liver to release stored sugar back into the bloodstream. This seesaw of regulation keeps energy supply steady around the clock. The gonads, ovaries in females, and testes in males, produce sex hormones such as estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. These hormones guide reproductive development, influence mood, and affect bone and muscle strength. The pineal gland, deep within the brain, releases melatonin, which helps regulate the sleep-wake cycle by responding to changes in light. The endocrine system is remarkable for its precision. Feedback loops ensure that no hormone acts unchecked. When levels rise, sensors signal the glands to slow production. When they fall, secretion resumes. This system of continuous measurement maintains internal equilibrium with minimal variation. From a reflective perspective, the endocrine system demonstrates that coordination does not require speed, it requires timing. Hormones flow like slow, deliberate messengers, maintaining harmony among organs that never meet directly. A thought in the brain can trigger a hormonal wave that changes metabolism, mood, or growth. The boundary between mind and body becomes less distinct here. Chemistry and consciousness are intertwined. Even during rest, the endocrine system continues its rhythm. Melatonin rises as darkness falls, cortisol decreases, and growth hormone peaks during deep sleep, repairing tissues and supporting the immune system. The chemistry of sleep is one of restoration, a nightly recalibration of the body's inner balance. In its quiet orchestration, the endocrine network represents the body's wisdom of timing. It teaches that stability arises not from constancy but from responsiveness, a gentle, continuous adjustment that keeps life in tune with its environment. Life persists through renewal. Every organism, from the simplest cell to the most complex human body, carries within it the means to create new life. In humans, the reproductive system ensures this continuity through processes that blend precision and vulnerability, the creation, protection, and nurturing of the next generation. Reproduction depends on two complementary structures, the male and female reproductive systems. Each contributes specialized cells that join to form a new genetic combination. In the male body, testes produce sperm cells and secrete testosterone, the hormone responsible for developing secondary sexual characteristics and maintaining sperm production. Sperm form within long coiled tubes called seminiferous tubules, where they mature before passing into the epididymis. From there, they travel through the vas deferens, mix with fluids from the seminal vesicles, prostate, and bulbourethral glands, and exit through the urethra during ejaculation. In the female body, the ovaries contain thousands of follicles, each holding an immature egg, or oocyte. Once a month, under hormonal signals from the pituitary gland, one follicle matures and releases an egg, a process called ovulation. The egg enters the fallopian tube, where it may encounter sperm. Fertilization, the fusion of sperm and egg, usually occurs here. The resulting zygote begins dividing as it travels toward the uterus, where it may implant into the prepared lining and begin development. The uterus is a muscular organ with an extraordinary ability to expand and protect. Its lining, the endometrium, thickens each month in anticipation of implantation. If fertilization does not occur, the lining sheds, the cycle resetting. This rhythmic preparation represents one of biology's most consistent patterns, a monthly renewal of potential. Hormones choreograph the entire process. The pituitary gland releases follicle-stimulating hormone FSH and luteinizing hormone LH, guiding the maturation of eggs and the release of estrogen and progesterone. These hormones, in turn, influence the uterine cycle and affect mood, temperature, and metabolism. The male system follows its own rhythm, with testosterone maintaining sperm production through constant feedback between the brain and testes. When conception succeeds, an intricate series of changes begins. Cells divide, specialize, and form tissues in a process called embryogenesis. The placenta, formed from both maternal and embryonic tissue, acts as a bridge, exchanging nutrients and gases while filtering out most harmful substances. Throughout pregnancy, hormonal adjustments coordinate growth and prepare the body for birth. From a reflective standpoint, reproduction reveals the unity of continuity and change. Each human being is both a new beginning and an unbroken link in a biological chain stretching back through millions of years. The DNA that combines during fertilization carries the imprint of countless ancestors, proof that life does not start anew with each birth, but continues through variation. This system also illustrates cooperation beyond the individual. Successful reproduction depends on balance between timing, health, and environment, a dialogue between biology and circumstance. It is not merely a function of anatomy but of alignment, where many separate systems synchronize toward one purpose. Even outside of reproduction, the same hormones that guide fertility influence mood, motivation, and emotion. They weave the chemistry of life through every cell, connecting physical cycles to behavior and thought. In this way, reproduction extends beyond creating new life. It also sustains the patterns that shape how we live and relate. To understand the reproductive system is to recognize that life endures through sharing. It is an act of continuation written into the body, an ongoing exchange between past and future. Every heartbeat, every breath, and every new generation echoes that same principle. Life preserving itself through connection and renewal. Emotions are both chemistry and perception, signals born in the brain that shape behavior, memory, and decision-making. They guide survival, influence relationships, and color experience. Behind every feeling lies a pattern of neural activity coordinated by a network of structures known collectively as the limbic system. At its core, the amygdala acts as the brain's emotional alarm. It detects potential threats and triggers instinctive responses such as fear or alertness. When danger appears, the amygdala activates the hypothalamus, which signals the adrenal glands to release adrenaline and cortisol. Heart rate rises, pupils widen, and muscles prepare for action. These changes happen before conscious thought, proof that emotion can precede reason. Adjacent to the amygdala lies the hippocampus, a structure essential for memory formation. Emotion and memory are intertwined here. Experiences charged with feeling are remembered more vividly because the amygdala strengthens the storage of emotional events. This connection explains why we can recall moments of joy or fear with such clarity, even after many years. The prefrontal cortex, located behind the forehead, plays the counterbalancing role. It evaluates emotional impulses, moderates reactions, and applies reasoning. In essence, it brings reflection to instinct. Together, the amygdala and prefrontal cortex form a dynamic partnership, one generating immediate response, the other applying control. This balance between reaction and restraint allows humans to navigate complex social worlds. Neurotransmitters form the chemical language of emotion. Dopamine reinforces reward and motivation. Serotonin regulates mood and stability. Norepinephrine heightens alertness, and oxytocin promotes bonding and trust. These molecules travel through networks of neurons, adjusting activity in milliseconds. The same chemicals that influence emotion also affect digestion, sleep, and immune function, revealing how deeply integrated the body's systems are. Emotion is not confined to the brain. Signals from the vagus nerve carry feedback from the heart, lungs, and gut, shaping mood through physical sensation. The phrase gut feeling has a biological foundation. Nerve fibers in the digestive tract send constant updates to the brain, influencing intuition and well-being. From a broader view, emotion is an adaptive mechanism, a way of prioritizing action. Fear encourages caution. Anger mobilizes energy. Sadness prompts reflection, and joy reinforces behaviors that sustain life. None of these feelings are mistakes. Each has purpose when balanced. Problems arise not from emotion itself, but from persistence beyond context, when reaction outlasts the moment that required it. The reflective side of emotion lies in awareness. Recognizing feelings without immediate judgment allows regulation to occur naturally. Breathing slows, the prefrontal cortex reasserts control, and physiological balance returns. This process, known as emotional regulation, is not suppression but understanding, the ability to let signals pass without becoming trapped within them. Emotion also connects individuals to one another. Facial expressions, tone of voice, and body posture transmit feelings faster than words. These cues activate similar brain regions in observers, a phenomenon called emotional resonance. Through it, humans share experience, building empathy and cooperation. The same biology that prepares for survival also allows compassion. At rest, the emotional system does not switch off. It reorganizes. During sleep, particularly in rapid eye movement stages, the brain replays emotional experiences, sorting and integrating them into memory. This nightly process helps regulate mood and maintain psychological health. Dreams often blend fragments of feeling and memory, evidence of the mind's quiet repair. Understanding emotion means understanding that thought and feeling are not opposites but parts of one continuum. The brain's complexity allows both instinctive reaction and deliberate reflection, both necessary for balance. Emotion gives life its color, guiding choices while reminding us that reason alone cannot define what it means to be alive. Touch is the first sense to develop and the last to fade. Before sight or hearing begin, the human embryo already responds to pressure and warmth. It is through touch that we first learn where our body ends and the world begins. This sense does more than report texture and temperature. It shapes emotional security, social bonds, and physical awareness throughout life. The surface of the skin is densely populated with specialized receptors, each tuned to a particular kind of stimulus. Merkel cells detect steady pressure and fine detail. Meissner's corpuscles respond to light touch and motion. Pacinian corpuscles register vibration, and Ruffini endings sense stretch. These receptors send information through sensory nerves to the spinal cord, which relays it to the somatosensory cortex in the brain. There, the body is represented as a map. Areas with more receptors, such as fingertips and lips, occupy larger regions, reflecting their heightened sensitivity. Touch operates faster than thought. If you touch something sharp, reflex pathways in the spinal cord activate withdrawal before the brain even registers pain. This protective mechanism demonstrates the efficiency of neural communication, yet beyond reflexes, touch carries emotional meaning. The same nerves that sense texture and temperature also interact with slower fibers that respond to gentle, rhythmic contact, the kind of touch associated with comfort or affection. These signals reach the insular and orbitofrontal cortex, regions linked to emotional processing, explaining why a caring touch can calm the nervous system and lower stress hormones. Touch also plays a role in development. Infants deprived of tactile stimulation fail to thrive, even when nutrition and care are otherwise adequate. Physical contact promotes growth, regulates temperature, and establishes trust through the release of oxytocin, the hormone that fosters bonding. This early connection sets patterns for how the nervous system manages stress and emotion throughout life. In adults, touch continues to communicate where words fall short. A handshake signals agreement, a pat on the shoulder reassurance, a light touch empathy. These gestures rely on the same neural circuits that once helped infants feel safe, showing how biology supports social cohesion. Pain, though unpleasant, is another essential aspect of touch. It protects the body by signaling damage or threat. Specialized nociceptors detect harmful stimuli and send warning signals to the spinal cord and brain. The experience of pain, however, is shaped not only by physical injury, but also by attention, emotion, and memory. The brain can amplify or suppress these signals depending on context, a reminder that perception is always interpretation. From an introspective view, touch links the physical with the emotional. It is both interface and language, the body's most direct form of communication. A single gesture can steady the heartbeat, slow breathing, and restore calm. In that moment, physiology and empathy become the same process. Even in rest, the sense of touch does not disappear. Pressure receptors continue to monitor posture and contact with surfaces, feeding subtle information that allows relaxation. The body constantly adjusts muscle tone, ensuring comfort and stability. As you drift towards sleep, the skin still feels the softness of fabric, the weight of blankets, the rhythm of air on your face, sensations that anchor awareness gently to the present. Touch reminds us that connection begins at the surface but reaches inward. It bridges the physical and the emotional, grounding the self in both sensation and relation. Through it, we learn that to be alive is to feel, not only with the mind but with the skin, the nerves, and the quiet intelligence that lives in every cell. Sleep is the body's most powerful form of recovery. It restores energy, repairs tissue, and reorganizes memory. Although it may appear to be a time of stillness, the sleeping brain is remarkably active, guiding the body through cycles that balance rest and renewal. Without sleep, coordination falters, mood deteriorates, and the immune and hormonal systems lose their rhythm. In every sense, sleep is not a pause from life, it is a vital part of it. The process begins in the hypothalamus, where clusters of neurons respond to light, temperature, and internal chemistry. As evening approaches and light decreases, the pineal gland releases melatonin, signaling to the body that it is time to rest. Core temperature drops slightly, heart rate slows, and muscles relax. These changes are orchestrated by the circadian rhythm, the roughly 24-hour cycle that governs nearly every biological process. Sleep unfolds in stages. During non-rapid eye movement, NREM sleep, the body shifts from light to deep rest. Brain waves slow, blood pressure falls, and tissues repair. Growth hormone peaks, supporting regeneration of muscles and bones. In rapid eye movement, REM sleep, which alternates with NREM several times through the night, brain activity increases again. This is when most dreaming occurs, as the mind replays and reorganizes experiences from the day. The alternation of these stages forms a repeating pattern, typically lasting about 90 minutes per cycle. Each stage has a distinct purpose. Deep sleep restores the body. REM sleep restores the mind. Together they maintain balance between physical repair and mental clarity. The glymphatic system, a network that clears metabolic waste from the brain, becomes active only during deep sleep, washing away byproducts that accumulate during waking hours. This nightly cleansing protects neural health and supports long-term memory. External factors strongly influence this system. Light exposure suppresses melatonin, irregular schedules disrupt circadian timing, and stress hormones delay the onset of rest. Conversely, predictable routines, consistent bedtime, dim lighting, and a cool, quiet environment reinforce natural rhythms. The body thrives on repetition, and sleep responds best to regularity. From a reflective perspective, sleep can be seen as the body's act of trust. To fall asleep is to surrender control and allow internal systems to continue their work unseen. The heart maintains its pace, the lungs exchange air, and the liver and kidneys continue their filtering. While consciousness withdraws, coordination among organs remains perfect, ensuring that life flows undisturbed. Sleep also reveals the partnership between mind and body. Emotional processing during dreams reduces anxiety, integrates memory, and resets perspective. Even fear and confusion that appear in dreams serve a function. They allow the brain to simulate and resolve emotional patterns safely. When morning arrives, clarity often follows, evidence of the quiet labor that occurred overnight. As you listen or rest now, your breathing may already be slowing, matching the body's natural rhythm for sleep. Muscles release their last traces of tension, and thought gives way to sensation. The same systems that governed your waking day now shift their focus to renewal. The pulse steadies, the mind drifts, and energy begins to gather for what comes next. In sleep, nothing is wasted. Every heartbeat, every breath contributes to restoration. The process reflects the essence of the body itself, balance through rhythm, renewal through rest. To understand sleep is to see that life's strength does not come only from motion or awareness, but from the ability to yield, recover, and begin again. Every movement, heartbeat, and thought depends on energy, the fuel that powers the living machine. The body converts chemical potential stored in food into the electrical and mechanical work that sustains life. This transformation, known as metabolism, occurs continuously in every cell. It is a symphony of chemical reactions organized into two main processes: catabolism, which breaks molecules down to release energy, and anabolism, which uses that energy to build and repair. The story of energy begins with food. Carbohydrates, fats, and proteins enter the digestive system, where they are reduced to glucose, fatty acids, and amino acids. These molecules travel through the bloodstream to cells that use them as fuel or raw material. Inside each cell, mitochondria serve as miniature power plants, converting chemical energy into adenosine triphosphate, ATP, the molecule that drives almost all biological work. The process of energy production starts with glycolysis, which splits glucose into smaller fragments, yielding a modest amount of ATP. The fragments then enter the citric acid cycle inside mitochondria, where they undergo further transformation, releasing high-energy electrons. These electrons pass through the electron transport chain, a series of molecular steps that generate the majority of the body's ATP. Oxygen serves as the final electron acceptor, producing water as a byproduct. This dependence on oxygen links respiration to metabolism at the deepest level. Fats provide a slower but richer energy source. Their breakdown, called beta oxidation, yields far more ATP per molecule than glucose, making fat the body's long-term energy reserve. Proteins, while primarily used for structure, can also serve as emergency fuel when other sources are depleted. The liver regulates these transitions, converting nutrients as needed and keeping blood glucose within narrow limits. Temperature control is another facet of metabolism. As cells produce energy, they generate heat. The body maintains core temperature through this byproduct, balancing heat production with heat loss via blood flow and sweating. Even in stillness, energy turnover continues. Maintaining posture, circulating blood, and powering neurons require constant input. Hormones act as the conductors of this chemical orchestra. Insulin and glucagon regulate glucose availability. Thyroid hormones adjust the speed of metabolism. Cortisol ensures that energy remains accessible during stress. The interplay among these hormones determines how efficiently the body converts and uses fuel. From a reflective view, metabolism mirrors the principle of transformation. Every atom in your body was once part of something else: a plant, a grain of soil, a ray of sunlight captured by chlorophyll. Through metabolism, matter becomes motion, and the energy of the sun continues its journey through living forms. This exchange also illustrates continuity between rest and activity. Even in sleep, the body consumes energy to repair tissue, build proteins, and maintain temperature. The metabolic rate drops slightly but never stops, reflecting the idea that rest is not stillness but a different phase of work, one focused on restoration rather than performance. Energy balance defines life's rhythm. When intake equals output, the system remains steady. When one side outweighs the other, the body adapts by storing or mobilizing reserves. These small adjustments happen automatically, evidence of the body's wisdom in maintaining equilibrium. To understand metabolism is to see that existence itself depends on change. Every heartbeat and breath represents a flow of energy transformed and passed along. The heat in your skin, the strength in your muscles, and the clarity in your thoughts all trace back to chemical reactions happening in silence. Within that quiet conversion, the raw materials of the world become life once again, a continuous cycle of transformation that never truly ends. Even in sleep, the nervous system never truly rests. It simply changes its rhythm, shifting from outward focus to inward maintenance. The electrical dialogue that once directed movement and perception now supports restoration and repair. This reorganization is what allows memory to consolidate, learning to stabilize, and emotional balance to return. As you drift into sleep, sensory input decreases and neural activity transitions from fast, synchronized firing to slower, larger waves. The thalamus, which acts as the brain's relay station, begins filtering incoming signals, preventing external noise from reaching conscious awareness. This gating process allows the cortex to disconnect from the outside world while remaining responsive to essential stimuli, a sudden sound, a change in temperature, or the call of a name. In this quieter state, different brain regions engage in internal conversation. The hippocampus replays events from the day, transferring short-term memories into long-term storage across the neocortex. This consolidation transforms fleeting experience into knowledge, integrating it into the broader web of understanding. The amygdala, often active during waking emotion, reduces activity, helping the mind regulate emotional tone and restore equilibrium. Meanwhile, the autonomic nervous system adjusts bodily processes to match this restorative mode. The parasympathetic branch, responsible for rest and digestion, dominates, slowing the heart rate and lowering blood pressure. Blood flow shifts from muscles to internal organs, supporting cellular repair and detoxification. Even the pupils narrow slightly, signaling calm throughout the system. At the same time, the glymphatic system within the brain increases its activity. Cerebrospinal fluid flows through neural tissues, flushing away waste products like beta amyloid that accumulate during waking hours. This cleansing process may explain why deep sleep leaves the mind clearer and focus sharper. It is as if the nervous system, during rest, washes itself in silence. From a reflective perspective, this nocturnal rebalancing represents the nervous system's trust in its own design. The same cells that process thought and perception also know how to repair themselves. Neurons that fired thousands of times during the day now use their connections to strengthen useful patterns and weaken unnecessary ones. Each night, identity is rewritten slightly, the mind refining itself without instruction. When sleep deepens, the boundary between conscious and unconscious fades. The brain continues to generate electrical patterns, but awareness withdraws from them. Breathing steadies, and body temperature lowers slightly. Dreams emerge, blending fragments of memory, sensation, and imagination. They are not random but organized attempts by the brain to make sense of experience, rehearsals of emotion and adaptation. If you are listening now, you may notice how your own body mirrors these descriptions. Breath lengthens, shoulders release, thoughts soften. The same shifts that occur in the sleeping brain begin here, before full rest arrives. The nervous system listens to rhythm and responds to calm. At its heart, this system shows that recovery is not the absence of activity, but a different form of it. The brain, even while silent, remains engaged in creation, building, cleansing, and connecting. Each night it restores harmony between thought and body, ensuring that the next day begins not from depletion but renewal. The nervous system at rest demonstrates a deeper kind of intelligence, one that does not depend on awareness or willpower. It is the wisdom of cycles, of trust in repetition. As you continue to drift, know that your body already knows how to rest. The same network that once guided motion now guides stillness, carrying you gently towards sleep. Time lives inside the body as rhythm. Every heartbeat, breath, and cycle of hormones follows an internal schedule shaped by the rotation of the earth. This timing system, known as the circadian clock, governs nearly every aspect of physiology. When we sleep, eat, heal, and think most clearly. It aligns the internal world with the external one, ensuring that body and environment remain in synchrony. At the center of this system lies the suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN, a tiny cluster of neurons located in the hypothalamus. It acts as the master clock, receiving light signals from the eyes and adjusting the timing of biological processes accordingly. When light enters the retina, specialized photosensitive ganglion cells send information to the SCN, which then directs hormone release, temperature changes, and metabolic patterns throughout the body. The SCN coordinates a network of peripheral clocks, timing mechanisms found in almost every organ and cell. These local clocks regulate specific functions: the liver's handling of glucose, the heart's rhythm of contraction, the lungs' oxygen exchange, and the skin's cycle of repair. Each follows its own schedule, but remains synchronized through hormonal and neural communication with the master clock. This alignment produces predictable daily fluctuations. Cortisol peaks in the early morning, promoting alertness. Body temperature rises through the day, supporting focus and coordination, then falls in the evening to prepare for rest. Melatonin increases after sunset, signaling the onset of sleep. Even digestion, immune response, and cellular growth follow circadian patterns. When these rhythms are disrupted through shift work, long flights, or irregular sleep, the consequences extend far beyond fatigue. Hormone balance falters, digestion becomes erratic, and mood regulation weakens. Chronic misalignment can strain metabolism and immunity, showing how deeply time and health are connected. Restoring rhythm often begins with simple acts: regular exposure to morning light, consistent meal times, and steady sleep schedules. From a broader perspective, the body's clock reflects a universal order. Every living thing on Earth, from algae to humans, responds to the same pattern of day and night. These cycles are not imposed, but inherited, written into DNA through millions of years of adaptation. The oscillations of light and dark have become part of biology itself, a conversation between planet and organism that continues unbroken. Inside each cell, molecular feedback loops maintain this rhythm. Proteins such as clock, BMAL1, PIA, and CRY accumulate and degrade in regular sequences, creating roughly 24-hour oscillations. These molecular cycles act like gears, keeping cellular functions timed precisely. The brain's master clock simply ensures that all these internal gears stay in step. The reflective lesson of the circadian system is harmony through repetition. It shows that health arises from cooperation between pattern and flexibility. The body anticipates change, morning activity, evening rest, and adjusts chemistry before need arises. When we live in rhythm with this internal clock, we use energy more efficiently and recover more deeply. At night, as melatonin levels rise and the nervous system slows, the entire body moves into alignment with darkness. Every organ lowers its pace, conserving energy for repair. This shared rhythm connects us not only with our own biology, but with the turning of the earth itself. The cycle of sleep and wake, of light and dark, is the body's oldest partnership, a conversation that began long before memory and continues quietly within every cell. When daylight fades and the world grows quiet, the senses do not stop working, they adapt. Vision adjusts to dim light, hearing sharpens, touch becomes more sensitive, and the mind shifts from external attention to internal awareness. Night does not silence perception, it changes the way the body listens to its surroundings. In darkness, the pupils widen to gather more light, allowing the eyes to detect faint movement and contrast rather than color. The rods in the retina take over from the cones, providing monochromatic but highly sensitive vision. This adjustment, called dark adaptation, can take up to half an hour, during which the pigment rhodopsin regenerates in photoreceptor cells. The world becomes a landscape of shadow and shape, revealing that sight is not limited by brightness, but guided by adjustment. As vision recedes, other senses grow more attuned. Hearing, for instance, becomes keener at night. The absence of background noise allows subtle frequencies, a creaking floor, distant wind, the hum of appliances, to emerge. The auditory cortex remains active, scanning the environment for irregular patterns that might signal importance. This vigilance has ancient roots. The brain evolved to remain partly alert to sound during sleep, protecting against danger even in vulnerability. Smell also intensifies. Cooler air carries scent molecules more slowly, prolonging their presence, and receptors inside the olfactory epithelium remain responsive throughout the night. The same sensitivity that helps animals locate food or detect predators lingers in humans, influencing memory and emotion. A familiar fragrance drifting through a quiet room can evoke vivid recollections, proof that scent and memory are deeply linked. Touch continues to provide grounding. Without the distractions of movement and sight, the body becomes more aware of the surface beneath it, the texture of fabric, the temperature of air, the subtle rise and fall of the chest with each breath. Pressure receptors in the skin maintain communication with the nervous system, ensuring comfort and balance even in stillness. Internally, the brain integrates sensory input differently at night. The thalamus, which filters information during wakefulness, relaxes its gait slightly, allowing certain sensory traces to blend with dreams. A faint sound or sensation may weave itself into the fabric of imagination, showing how perception and dreaming are not separate but continuous states within the same system. From a reflective standpoint, the senses at night illustrate the principle of selective attention. The body does not shut down, it reprioritizes. Awareness narrows from the external world to the intimate environment surrounding rest. The whisper of fabric, the rhythm of breath, the distant pulse of air through the lungs, all become reminders that perception is ongoing even when consciousness dims. Night invites a quieter form of seeing and hearing, one that relies less on clarity and more on presence. In this subdued state, the mind begins to merge with sensation rather than observe it. Thought loses its sharp edges, experience becomes softer, slower, more fluid. If you are listening now, your senses may already be adjusting in the same way. The eyes grow heavier, the breath steadier, and sound becomes part of the background of calm. What remains is pure awareness, the body listening to itself. In the darkness, the senses no longer serve to explore the outer world but to anchor you within the inner one. They remind you that perception never ceases, it simply changes direction, turning inward toward rest. Through this transformation, the body maintains its connection to life, even as it prepares for sleep. Every system in the body exists not only to function but to repair. Healing is one of life's most intricate processes, a coordinated response that restores balance after injury or strain. From the smallest cellular repair to the recovery from disease, the same fundamental principles apply: detection, response, reconstruction, and renewal. When tissue is damaged, the first event is recognition. Cells along the injured site release chemical signals such as histamine and cytokines, which alert the immune system and increase blood flow to the area. The surrounding capillaries widen, allowing immune cells and nutrients to reach the wound. What appears as redness or swelling is in fact a sign of activity, the body mobilizing its resources to protect and rebuild. Next comes inflammation, a stage often misunderstood. While it causes discomfort, inflammation is essential for clearing debris and preventing infection. White blood cells called neutrophils and macrophages remove dead cells and pathogens, while platelets seal broken vessels. Once the area is secure, the inflammatory response begins to subside, making way for tissue formation. The proliferation phase follows, in which fibroblasts produce collagen and other structural proteins to form a new framework. Tiny capillaries grow to supply oxygen, creating granulation tissue, the pink, delicate layer that fills the wound. This is the architecture of recovery, built one cell at a time. Finally, the remodeling phase strengthens the new tissue. Collagen fibers align along stress lines, restoring flexibility and resilience. The process may take days or months depending on the injury, but the principle remains the same. Destruction gives way to creation. The tissue that replaces the damaged one is never identical, yet it serves its purpose. A quiet record of resilience. Healing extends beyond visible wounds. Inside the body, cells constantly repair DNA breaks, replace worn-out proteins, and recycle damaged organelles. The liver regenerates after injury, bones remodel after fracture, and the brain rewires around lost connections through neuroplasticity. These processes demonstrate that repair is not an occasional response but a permanent feature of living systems. From a broader perspective, healing is a balance between action and restraint. The body must respond strongly enough to correct damage but carefully enough to avoid harming itself. Too much inflammation leads to chronic disease. Too little prevents recovery. The precision of this regulation reflects the intelligence of biology, a system that knows when to push forward and when to pause. Rest plays an essential role in this equilibrium. During sleep, growth hormone peaks, immune activity increases, and cell division accelerates. The same mechanisms that mend physical tissue also restore mental and emotional balance. Dreams, in their symbolic way, are part of this process, reorganizing memory and emotion to repair the mind's internal landscape. If you are resting now, healing is already underway. Each slow breath supports oxygen delivery. Each heartbeat carries nutrients to tissues in need. You do not need to control it. The process unfolds naturally, guided by systems older than memory. The body repairs not because it is told to, but because it is designed to. Healing reveals life's fundamental direction toward restoration. It is the proof that living matter seeks coherence, that even in disruption there is order trying to re-emerge. Every scar, every recovered strength, every quiet breath after pain is evidence of that truth. The body remembers how to become whole. The body is a record of experience, a living archive where every breath, movement, and heartbeat leaves its trace. From the first cell divisions before birth to the changes of age, it remembers. Muscles adapt to motion, bones reshape under pressure, neurons strengthen the pathways that are used most often. Even when awareness fades, the body carries memory forward in the way it moves, heals, and rests. Every system we have explored, nervous, circulatory, respiratory, immune, is not separate but connected through time. They evolve together, communicating through pulses of chemistry and electricity. The body is less a collection of parts than a single unfolding process, continuously rewriting itself. Cells die and are replaced. Atoms enter and leave with every meal and breath. Yet identity remains, carried not by permanence, but by pattern. This continuity of pattern is what allows memory without awareness. You may forget how to ride a bicycle, but your muscles remember. You may lose track of years, but your heart keeps time with quiet accuracy. The liver continues to detoxify, the kidneys to filter, the brain to dream. These rhythms repeat every day, rebuilding what was worn, refining what was learned. Inside each cell, molecular feedback loops mirror this continuity. DNA unwinds and copies itself. Proteins fold and refold. Energy flows from mitochondria into motion. Nothing stands still. The body is renewal disguised as stability, a steady form made of constant change. From a reflective perspective, this awareness of continuity brings a kind of peace. To live in a body is to belong to something that knows how to persist. You do not need to remember every detail for life to continue. The body remembers for you. Its intelligence runs deep, older than thought, older even than language. When you rest, this intelligence remains active. The breath continues, the heart circulates warmth, the brain wanders through the quiet landscapes of sleep. Each system supports the others without command, following a design shaped by time and adaptation. Even as consciousness fades, the pattern of life endures, precise, measured, and calm. If you are lying still now, feel how the body carries you without effort. The air moves in and out, the chest rises and falls, the pulse continues beneath the skin. These simple motions are evidence of something profound, the constant presence of life within you. You are not separate from it. You are it, the living sum of movement, rest, and renewal. The story of the body is not only one of structure but of persistence. Every process, from the firing of neurons to the beating of the heart, tells the same truth. Life is motion seeking balance. The body remembers that balance even when the mind forgets. It will guide you through wakefulness, through rest, through every change that follows. Now, as you prepare to drift into sleep, let that rhythm take over. The body knows how to find equilibrium. It has done so since the moment life began. You can let go and trust its wisdom. The heart will keep its steady time. The breath will continue its gentle rise and fall. We from Sleepy Stories wish you a good night.